Hello model railroaders, it's Dave, welcome back to the layout. Well, I've got some progress to update you all with. As you can see, there are some logging cars on the offloading track, and there's some oh, I'm losing my words. There's a couple of cars getting loaded up with dried wood, and down here we have oil cars, or oil tankers I should say, or gasoline, oil, whichever. I guess there's some propane, and some bud cars are oil or gas with a little mix of some other cars there. So that's kind of the look I was wanting to achieve. Now the track, as you can see here hopefully through the glare, is all powered. So I powered that side and this side of the Y, and down here I powered my line coming in on the gradient, and then the two lines going to the logging area, and that is successful enough. And we've got an intruder. I've had the, I believe it's 43 car train running around the layout for a little bit to get some exercise. So I just did a little switching trial to bring all these cars in, and I did find one hiccup, and it always comes back to, now I don't know if it's a issue with just Atlas loco trucks, the wheels are a little wide. I don't know, I haven't tried Kato loco, but I'm getting at the frog, or after the frog I guess, because the frog is non-conductive, but on all my Pico turnouts I'm getting that the wheel crossing over and shorting out. So I'm going to have to do what I showed in a different video and just cover up about 1 millimeter of the point after the frog with clear nail polish. And the clear nail polish will just give that little bit more of coverage to gap those two rails so that the wheel won't cross over and short out. And that's down at that end and here as well on this Pico turnout. Now I've got to come up with a solution or find the switches that go here for this Atlas Y, because it's near impossible without something to hold that hold the points to one side or the other to actually run the locos and cars through that turnout. So I've got some HO scale, I believe they're Red Caboose brand, the manual ones. I'm going to give one of those a try and temporarily and see if that will work. It's not a place that will get frequent activity, at least not by me, not at the moment. If I've got some friends over, then hopefully the whole layout will be exercised, so to speak. But just by myself, it would be more if I assemble a cars to replace those that are already there, swap them out, bring them back to the yard. That would be more a personal, hour and a half to enjoy my layout. However, that probably won't happen in the immediate future, because now I've got to decide on which of the other many items that I need to focus on. Now, I have been stalling on doing anything with this roundhouse because it didn't enthuse me in my previous layout, and I'd like to come up with something different. And I know Walters had in HO scale instead of a turntable, they had a lateral table where you had multiple lines going off, but that bridged section went up and down a pit. That I think would look very unique, but I may have to scratch build that. So that's off the table for quite a while. I still need to work on the quarry. Of course, there's scenery galore every place that needs to be dealt with, but I'm still kind of in track mode. Now, though I haven't sorted out what I'm going to do up here, I do have a turnout here that I need to deal with. What am I putting in this section? I've tentatively thought of the grain mill and storage area, supply store, maybe some houses, and then kind of the hillish scenery leading into the I'm going to call it a mountain. Take it or leave it. I'm going to call it a mountain for future reference. And it's on this side a city scene, and I got the turnout here. Now I don't know if I'm going to bring that down over into this area, which will put the cars actually behind the building, or if I bring it following the secondary mainline track and place it here at the front where the loading bay would be facing the operator. My initial thought, or what I would like to do, is place the Woods Furniture Company in that location. So that would mean a fairly deep well that it's going to be very hard to look over the building to do anything with parking any of the rail cars at the dock. So if I do go with the Woods Furniture Company, then that would probably more go with a track over in this area and siding here. And do I put it on foam or not? That goes for this section and this section, because I do have two risers, 2 half-inch risers that I can elevate, and then I could do a similar thing as I did here and have the potential in the future to just swap out the foam modules and install a whole new track layout or deal with the building placement. And I've still got a turnout here which is going to go into some kind of a chemical factory with lots of tanks and the need for hoppers and different chemical tankers in this area. But to work on there, I've got to find a home for everything that has been condensed from the rest of the layout as I've progressed. So, and the buildings are only partially built, which I did actually purchase from another individual that was getting out of the hobby, so I need to complete those buildings. So that's more work. Now, I did tell you I was going to show you under the layout here as to what I actually did as far as the wiring. So here we are. Let me rotate the camera more vertically for you and kind of get in there so you can see. So the wires punch through the foam and through the plywood, and unfortunately I miscalculated and shorted myself, so I had to do a joiner. I need to trim them off and put some heat shrink on them, or completely replace that wire set in the future. I don't know. I may instead of that solder joint, I don't know what I'm going to do, because that at a later point I'll probably just have to cut the wire to be able to pull it back out through the hole. It's just an oops, and at the time I didn't want to deal with replacing it. But I just used one of those manifold blocks. I'm not sure what the exact term is. I bought them secondhand. They did have little prongs sticking out of them, which I can show you better. And then I just soldered across the four for the black and the four that were for the red, just some 14 gauge copper wire to provide the connectivity across all four of those terminals. So, and then the leads just tie into my bus line, red and black over here. So that's pretty much how I did the wiring. I'll just kind of pull you over. Oh, something else new. I did put in another Digitrax UP5 panel and a couple of throttle holders just to make life a little easier. And there's the other terminal that went with the proper length of wire. And I didn't short myself here, so if need be I can just undo the wires going into the terminals, and they can go right up through. I did tin the tips of the wire just so that I wasn't going to have any splayed out copper fibers poking where they shouldn't be poking, just to keep everything together. It's always better to solder the wire tips if you can when you're dealing with multi-strand wire. So I've found that in the past, and that it's working for me now. And then they'll be able to pull it out through the plywood, and then this whole section of foam will be able to be removed. So that's my promise fulfilled for showing you how I perform the wiring. None of these foam sections here are secured down. They're just sitting static in place, and nothing seems to be shifting or anything. Now, as more scenery gets done, or I get to that point, I'll bevel to make an embankment along the sharp edge, and then deal with the scenery aspect, and then try and not have them stuck together, so that I can pull, the individual pieces out as the need warrants. I still do need to go back and put some ballast down just to stop any cat hair or anything else from sticking to the two-way tape. As you can see, the two-way tape, I'm tugging on it fairly strongly, and it's not, the track ties are sticking to the that two-way tape quite well. I've had no let-ups off of the two-way tape on the layout so far. So that's over a 3-year period, though my humidity is pretty constant, about 45%, I believe. So that's kind of a little scattered update, and I'll just show you the connector. So that's the connector that I started with. Let me bring you over so that things aren't going crazy. So I just jumpered across these. Now, if you do have one of these terminals where the screw secures in the back, you're going to need to actually drill out with probably, I believe it was like a 9/16 bit, the little fitting, so that you can end up with this type of a hole afterwards, and you can cut these terminals down. I initially thought I could pop one out, and I found out the hard way that they're press fit in there as part of the molding. But if you do drill them out, you'll drill out the press fit, and then you can just use a hobby saw to cut the terminal strip down to 2, and then have a screw port on the other side. So that's why the one that you saw there had a side blown out of it, because I wasn't going to waste anything. It's out of sight, so it's not going to fall off the bottom of the table. So at this point I will sign off and figure out what I'm going to attack next. As I mentioned, I still want to continue doing some track work, so I just have to sort out what it is that I actually want to focus on. So till the next video, which will hopefully not be an extended time span apart, I wish you a great summer, or spring I should say, as the weather slowly improves, that hopefully you still get to spend some time working on your layout in some capacity or another. Bye for now.